Hi everybody! Today I'm going to read Leprechaun on the Loose by Masha Thornton Jones, illustrated by Sid Moore. We would have read this book on St. Patrick's Day, except that we weren't at school. We had to leave the week before, and we had just started talking about St. Patrick's Day and leprechauns. Let's see what you remember as we read the book. A leprechaun was loose in the classroom, and Sydney was the only one who knew it. So this is Sydney, and look, he's looking at the little leprechaun footprints. Sydney saw teeny tiny green footprints on the floor. He followed them to the table where Mrs. Yoda had cupcakes for the St. Patrick's Day party. Sydney peeked inside the box. All the green icing had been licked off the cupcakes. Oh no. Look, you can see the footprints again, and you can see the leprechaun going to hide. Sydney set out to find that leprechaun. It was plain bad luck when he stepped on his own shoelace. Oof! Whoosh! Splat! Sydney fell right on the table. Sydney ruined our party snack, Della Puddington told everyone when Mrs. Yoda threw away the squish box. I didn't do it, Sydney said. It was the leprechaun. An itty-bitty hee-hee-hee came from behind the fish tank, but Sydney was the only one who heard it. You remember we talked about leprechauns and how mischievous they are? During reading time, Sydney noticed something was wrong with the fish. He sneaked to the back of the room and looked into the tank. The leprechaun was swimming the backstroke, and the fish definitely were not happy. It's really funny. Look right beside the tank. He took his hat and his shoes off before he went in. Sydney dove after the leprechaun. Plop, kerplunk, sploosh. Water soaked the table. Look at the leprechaun he got out. Sydney ruined our decorations, Della cried when Mrs. Yoda threw away the soggy paper shamrocks. I didn't do it, Sydney said. It was the leprechaun. Sydney was sure he heard a tiny little ha 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 as he mopped up the mess. Geez, nobody else is hearing this except for Sydney. During science class, Sydney heard a creak, creak, creak coming from the hamster's cage. Sydney tiptoed to the cage. He carefully opened the door and came face to face with the leprechaun. While Sydney and the leprechaun stared at each other, the hamster ran out the open door and across the table. Hope they don't lose their class pet. Sydney dived after the hamster. Boom, bam, crash. Sydney fell against the table. Juice went everywhere just as the hamster scurried out of sight. That's a mess. Our juice is gone, Della said with a sniffle. So are the decorations and all of our cupcakes. Sydney ruined our St. Patrick's Day party. Sydney was sure he heard a faint tee-hee-hee from behind the stack of reading books. See him? Nobody believed that Sydney didn't do it. There was only one thing for him to do. He had to catch that leprechaun. At recess, Sydney sneaked past his teacher and ran to the art corner. Everything he needed was there. Sydney pounded and snapped and glued. Perfect, he said when he finished his leprechaun trap. Then he hurried to the lunchroom and looked through the lunch trays until he found a stinky tidbit of corned beef. So right here on the box it says, "Welcome all leprechauns." Back door release button. So it looks like he's making a trap for the leprechaun. I think you talked about that, James, when we talked a little about it in school. Didn't you say you wanted to make a trap? Sidney carefully reached inside his leprechaun trap with the bait. Just then his foot knocked into the back of the trap. Swish, clang, jing. Sidney was caught inside. Oh no, so instead of catching the leprechaun, he's inside the trap. He heard the tippity-tap-tippy of itty-bitty boots. I do believe I've caught me a boy, that I have, said the leprechaun with a grin. Let me out, Sidney begged. The tiny man scratched under his tall green hat. Now, why should I be wanting to do a thing such as that? On the side of the box it says, step in for a snack. So Sidney was trying to catch the leprechaun, but instead he caught himself. Sidney thought fast. Come closer and I'll tell you a secret, he said. Secret? I love secrets, said the leprechaun as he inched forward. That's when Sidney made his move. He reached out and tickled the leprechaun right under his chin. Ho! The leprechaun fell down and hit the trap door. The door flew open. Sidney rolled out and pushed the leprechaun inside. Swish, clang, zing. I've got you, Sidney yelled. Now I can prove that you ruined the party and not me. Think they'll believe him now? Party, said the little man. I'll make you a deal. Let me go and I'll save the party. Then I'll be gone and you'll never see me again. How can a leprechaun save our party? Sidney asked. With me treasure, of course. Wonder if he should trust him. Should he keep the leprechaun and prove he didn't ruin everything? Sidney wondered. Or should he let the leprechaun go home and save the party for all his friends? What would you do? I'd have to think about that, because this leprechaun is a little bit sly, I think. Sidney was running out of time. His class was right outside the door. He had to decide. Quick, tell me where your treasure is, Sidney said. He leaned close, and the leprechaun whispered in his ear. Look at the rainbows. We did make our rainbows before we left school. And then we put them in the bags that you picked up with all of your belongings. Sidney knew a deal was a deal. He opened the trap door and watched the leprechaun climb out. The leprechaun turned one last time and tipped his hat at Sidney. Then the teeny tiny man slipped out the window and was gone. Sidney found the treasure right where the leprechaun said it would be. It was just what he needed to save the party. Looks like there's some juice boxes and some cupcakes and some balloons. And see the rainbow? And usually you find a pot of gold at the end of a rainbow. The class cheered. Even Della Puddington smiled at Sidney. Mrs. Yoder wasn't mad at him anymore, even if she didn't quite believe where Sidney got the party supplies. Sidney was finally able to forget all of the trouble the leprechaun had caused. Then Sidney heard something terrible. They're wearing the balloons as hats. We've got cupcakes and juice. Excuse me, lad, said a tiny voice from behind Sidney's box of crayons. I'm looking for me brother. Have you seen him anywhere? Oh, no. He finally got rid of that mischievous mischievous leprechaun. And now it looks like there's a brother that might come and cause trouble. Until next time, bye.